Often hailed as a 20th century masterpiece exploring themes of power, corruption, and morality as it relates to European colonialism, Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Like many classics covered on this channel, Heart of Darkness was not a popular novel during its publication or during Conrad's lifetime. And yet, in addition to its thematic importance in an educational setting, Heart of Darkness remains one of the most studied and taught works in all of high school and university level curricula, largely due to its ambiguity and imposing prose, compared frequently to the works of Ernest Hemingway, William Faulkner, and Cormac McCarthy for his bleak, masculine-driven plot lines, stylistic language, and entanglement with the human psyche. There is no doubt Heart of Darkness remains an English classic, but is it any good? If you've been here before, then you know I film a series on this channel where I force myself to revisit and reread works I previously disliked to see if and how my thoughts have changed over time. It's no secret that I did not like Heart of Darkness the first time I read it, and after rereading it for the purpose of this review, I have some thoughts. So let's talk about it. Before continuing, there will be spoilers in this book review. Additionally, Heart of Darkness deals with themes of exploitation, racism, brutality, colonialism, and death. If any of these topics are triggering to you, just please proceed with caution. Without further ado, let's review. Charles Marlowe is both recounting and examining elements of the past. A former steamboat captain in the depths of Africa, he ponders if the Romans once both felt and saw the British lands to be the same wild and savage ones that he saw while in the Belgian Congo. Essentially, he concludes that all lands were once vicious before being colonized and tamed, although makes a distinction that British colonialism is superior due to its dedication to efficiency. And fascinated by the blank or dark spaces on a map, he tells the story of when he took a job as a steamboat captain to explore that very darkness in Africa. Although very attracted to the job position, Marlowe undergoes a series of interviews, medical examinations, and contract signings, foreshadowing the harrowing journey that awaits him. In fact, the travels even getting to the central station in the Congo for his larger steamboat are tormenting. He sees a French man-of-war ship firing blindly into the African coastal lands. He sees natives in chains, starving, and days away from death, and he becomes very unsettled by the slow pace of his travel. Marlowe is forced to wait 10 days before he will be transported to his central station, so much for efficiency, and while waiting learns of a mysterious trading figure, Mr. Kurtz, an ivory trader described as one of the most important first-class agents who will go the distance. Marlowe becomes very intrigued to find and meet this Mr. Kurtz. Once Marlowe finally reaches the central station, further delays ensue as he learns his steamboat has sunk, is inoperable, and needs repairs. He has no idea how long these repairs will take, especially in this environment, but the station manager urges him to do it quickly and get it done within 3 months because time lost essentially equals casualties in this line of work, and other stations need relief. Although the manager initially agrees that Mr. Kurtz is indeed the most successful ivory trader in the company, Marlowe eventually sees his hypocrisy. He is jealous of Kurtz's success, paranoid about maintaining his position in the company, and displays disgust towards Kurtz's harmful and violent tactics and the exploitation of the natives. Yet the manager only hides behind this mask of morality and being civilized, as he is just an average man without any special talent or skill. Other than surviving to live another day in this environment in the Congo, he blindly works for the same company that exploits those very same natives. Finally, the steamboat is repaired, and Marlowe and a mixed crew of whites and natives, which Marlowe refers to as cannibals, head out to the river. Although he means cannibals literally, because these natives were said to be part of a tribe that practiced this, Marlowe notes that even through their suffering and starvation, they never attacked. He contemplates the greed, panic, and even hysteria that Europeans will undergo in an attempt to never be without. Yet the native populations remain calm, reliable, and continue their work. Following more delays and a thick, ominous fog, the steamboat is eventually attacked by a sea of arrows coming from natives on land. The helmsman steering the boat is killed, bleeding onto Marlowe, who is now upset, believing that Mr. Kurtz must be dead, because no man could survive in this environment with this much savagery alone for this period of time. Additionally, Marlowe begins to realize how much he was looking forward to meeting Mr. Kurtz, specifically to talk with him. Although Kurtz had been rumored to be ill, his initial philosophies and beliefs on European colonialism and its moral duty it claimed to have to civilize indigenous communities intrigued him. After 2 long months of travel, Marlowe and his steamboat finally reach the next station. A Russian man working for a Dutch trading company is there and talks with Marlowe about Mr. Kurtz. He says the natives only shot the arrows because they were worried Mr. Kurtz would be taken away from them, and he tells Marlowe that Kurtz has changed. Learning Kurtz is now a godlike figure being worshipped by his tribe, and the only reason they have so much success in the ivory trade is because they raid neighboring villages to exploit their ivory. Marlowe sees a row of human heads on spikes. Rebels and criminals, the Russian tells him. Marlowe remembers the rebels and the criminals he saw in chains from his earlier parts of the journey. Kurtz is alive, but ill indeed, and needs to be taken out of this environment. However, Kurtz doesn't want to leave and goes so far as to escape in the night before being trapped and threatened by Marlowe. He is forced to leave his tribe and watches them mourn his departure. Mr. Kurtz unfortunately doesn't survive, passing literally from disease, presumably from something like malaria, and passing figuratively while remembering the horror. After barely surviving the same illness, Marlowe goes back to Europe and struggles with what he now knows and everything he saw. He resents the ignorant citizens and their meaningless worry compared to the terrors of his travel. Marlowe keeps several of Kurtz's documents in his possession, refusing to hand them over to the greedy company. But he hands over some personal letters to a cousin and hands a lot of documents over to a journalist. The story closes with Marlowe visiting with Kurtz's fiancée, and he lies to her about what eventually became of him. 110 pages, Heart of Darkness is dense. A lot of plot points, many of which were left out of this video for the purpose of time. Lengthy and flowery prose, and it's heavy. However, I don't think that this novella is dense in terms of difficulty or understanding. If you're weary about comprehending Conrad, I wouldn't be. Droll thing life is, that mysterious arrangement of merciless logic for a futile purpose. The most you can hope from, it is some knowledge of yourself. That comes too late. A crop of unextinguishable regrets. It seems to me I am trying to tell you a dream, making a vain attempt because no relation of a dream can convey the dream sensation, that commingling of absurdity, surprise, and bewilderment in a tremor of struggling revolt, that notion of being captured by the incredible, which is of the very essence of dreams. No, it is impossible. We live as we dream, alone. Although I appreciate the poetic and lyrical language, my biggest gripe with this book is Conrad's use of obvious foreshadowing, leaving too many clues to what the reader should be thinking and feeling at any given moment. For example, aside from the title, the words dark and darkness are used over 40 times in the novella, and for a book that is only 110 pages in length, that is a lot. Additionally, the story is filled with pre-voyage commentary and communications meant for Marlowe, and therefore the reader, in addition to blatantly obvious metaphors. For example, Marlowe solidifies his position as a captain after the previous one dies. A gentle Danish man killed by a village native over a misunderstanding of hens? Interesting. Marlowe is questioned by the company doctor doing his physical as he measures his skull, discusses the changes that these men undergo, and inquires as to his family history with mental illness. Interesting. Then there is the stark contrast between light and dark, the blindness of the civilized and the darkness of the unknown and of the human soul, the winding snake-like river, slowly squeezing you in deep into inward descent. Kurtz's artwork of the blindfolded woman, the blindness and ignorance of the European light, the ominous fog serving as a distorted veil for corruption. The list goes on, and it is too obvious for my taste. Ironically, this novel uses the tool of ambiguity, specifically attempting to blur the lines between light and dark, good versus evil, civilized and savage. A great example of this is seeing cases of once great philosophies or great men descend into violent madness. The deceased captain, a once very gentle man, now violently beating a native over a misunderstanding of a couple hens. The blind and aimless shelling from the French ship. And of course, Kurtz's collection of human heads. Who is the savage in these scenarios? Who is being uncivilized? The point of Heart of Darkness is to ask these questions and to watch Marlowe ask them too. Conrad does a hauntingly brilliant job of letting the reader watch in slow motion a man's slow descent into the depths of darkness. Darkness of the unknown, darkness of the mind, darkness of reality. The problem with this novel, however, is these aren't exactly original or groundbreaking realizations, especially when reading it today, and it's hard to believe that any character would be surprised by the things that Marlowe sees. Yes, entities withhold truths. Yes, philosophies can sound better on paper than in reality. And yes, some level of ignorance can be forgiven. But there is nothing to be forgiven about reading a novel where a character ignores all of the signs to not cross the railroad. And not only does he cross that railroad, but then is disillusioned by the result. Although Heart of Darkness has its own film adaptation and inspired Francis Ford Coppola's incredible film Apocalypse Now, the novel is criticized for more than just overused literary tropes. The depictions of Africa, life along the Congo River, and the very dehumanizing descriptions of the indigenous people horrify many readers. While I think it can be a very good thing for literature to provoke and to accurately depict the sentiments of the time, I can't really read you many excerpts on camera. And I think that gives you an idea of the types of things that are in this book. Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. I'm not incredibly confident in how I'm going to rate this book. On the one hand, it's not my taste. I don't like it. However, I do really appreciate his prose. His ability with the pen in English, especially given that it's not his first language, is remarkable. And I can also appreciate, I think, what the novel is trying to say. 2.75 out of 5 stars. Yikes. Are there any classics that you don't like? Let me know in the comments below. It echoed loudly within him because he was hollow at the core.